Hello everyone, welcome back. Fair warning, tonight I got a new camera in the mail today, so naturally I plugged it in and tried to play with it. I don't think I quite got everything configured, but we're going with it because once I started unplugging the old stuff and plugging in the new stuff, I was kind of committed and figured why not? Let's do it. So, tonight I was going to go and kind of poke at a project that I mentioned in the past. There's a thing called Microsoft Orleans, which we'll take a look at in a little bit. But really wanting to deploy out and more importantly, see what the performance looks like. So, this is not something I normally do. So, this is going to be a learning experience for all of us. It should be great. So, let's go ahead and dive in. So, for those people interested, here is a link to Orleans. And I've shared this page before, and one of the biggest drawbacks to Orleans is I don't know if this is really clear of what it is or when you would use it. Like this is kind of the crux of the problem with a lot of the Orleans stuff is it's sorry, one second. Deal with my lighting, and this is the drawbacks of new camera setup and not having things dialed in yet. Uh, is it's designed to be a highly distributed system, and I'm not very familiar with it, but my understanding is it's trying to take a lot of the complexity of doing large distributed applications and hide that away from you so that you don't have to worry about a lot of it and you can focus on what is actually important. So the nice part though is we don't actually need to know a ton about Orleans to get up and running, which is great. So I forked the .NET Orleans repository. I've made no changes in my fork. I just made one of mine, and you can see I'm already 10 commits behind, which, oh boy. But more importantly, they've got this lovely samples folder, which is quite cool. And I wanted to play around with this voting sample that they have. So there's a couple things that it goes through and does. It's supposed to look something like this. But each of these samples tries to show off something a little bit different. And I kind of wish this image of the dashboard wasn't broken. We may go see if we can figure out what it was pointed. Dashboard.png. Is that just missing? Uh, it might just be missing because I don't see it in here. Disappointing. Um, but this one also shows off doing a Kubernetes deployment. So I'm not going to dive too deep into Kubernetes tonight, though that is an area that I've often contemplated doing some streams on. So containerization, deploying out. There's a lot of fancy industry buzzwords in that, which always gets people excited. In my mind, it's not overly complex. The key thing here is they've actually gone to the effort of doing most of the work. So they've got a PowerShell script inside of this voting one where you just need to provide out some of the information and then using the Azure CLI and some tools, Docker, kubectl, uh, it should just work. We'll see how the should just work bit goes. I did go to the effort of sorry, one second. Boom, boom, boom. Great, boom. There we go. And we'll make this bigger. So I did go to the effort of spinning a resource group out in Azure, and I spun this itty bitty little cluster. Emphasis on itty bitty. This is not a big cluster. These things are not big. So for those people who know nothing of Kubernetes, brief primer. It's a system for managing deployment of applications onto a bunch of VMs. I'm obviously skimming over a ton of details, but just assume that. Like that's its job. And the key thing here to note is underneath AKS, there is what is called a VM scale set or VMSS. And that's where these agent pools come from. They are effectively the compute power behind all of these things. And you can see that the size of each of these itty bitty VMs that I have in my pool are just B2MS. These are not very big. But let's see. I was hoping it would show me what these were because I don't quite remember the exact. Well, we can just search. Yeah, that'll probably work good enough. Show me the sizes. Key things: 8 gigs of memory, 2 vCPUs. So not huge. The other thing is I do have these things set to auto scale, but they only scale between 1 and 2 VMs. So they aren't very big to begin. Oh, there's the cores and the memory. They aren't very big to begin with, and they're only going to double in size. So I don't want this thing to get big. I kind of want to know how far I can push something on a small amount of hardware. That's kind of the goal of what we're looking for before we burn through all my credits. So that's kind of what I want to test. The other thing that I was going to play with is this thing called Locus, which is a simple way of doing some load testing. Now, this is a system, again, don't have a lot of experience with. It was recommended, and I went, sure, let's give it a shot. That sounds like fun. So we're going to do that. So we're going to try a little Python. But first, let's see if we can get this guy deployed out. So I'm already in my Orleans repository. So let's go samples. And then let's go voting. And then let's go take a brief look at this script real quick. This virtual machine is better than my old laptop. Yeah, that is one of the nice parts about playing in the cloud is you can go big really fast. Now you can also pay for it very fast, which is part of why I'm playing on an Azure subscription that's on a, what do they call it? An MSDN subscription that has some free credits every month, because if I accidentally mess up, I burn through all my credits. The account just gets frozen until the month resets, and then we move on. So, okay, so for those people unfamiliar with, the AZ command is the Azure CLI. So all this is doing is looking up the ACR information, which is fine. It's logging into the ACR. It's going to do a Docker build, which probably means I need to make sure I actually have Docker running. So we'll turn Docker on because that'll be important. So it's going to build up a container for this guy. So this app, which I haven't hardly even looked at this application. I know it's an ASP.NET Core application, and it references Orleans. That's it. That's the subtotal of what I know. And you know what the README showed. And then it uses kube control, or as one of my colleagues once called it, kube cuddle. And I haven't been able to unsee that since, so you will probably hear me call that kube cuddle, but I think the real developers call it kube control. And for, again, just brief primer on Kubernetes. Kubernetes deploys out resources with YAML files. So this just declares all of the stuff that needs to go out in order to make this app run. So there's a Redis thing that goes out. Services are kind of like your gateways for networking and mapping stuff. There's the actual deployment for the app itself. Great. I'm a little surprised. I'm going to have to change where this is pointed, won't I? Their script doesn't change that image, does it? No. So it's nice that they've bothered to do this, but I wonder, did they document that? That'd be a little disappointing if they didn't. The provision PS attempts to automatic with some required names. Also worth noting, this is not the same set of steps as what is in... Oh, provision. Oh, there's 2 scripts. I missed the other one. Hang on. There's deploy. There's provision. Okay. Readings OP. Okay. Defined at the top of the scripts. Best execute the steps in a PowerShell terminal one by one, since the script performs no error handling. We might just fire in the hole. And if it dies, we'll figure it out. So create a resource group. It tried to do all of the AKS stuff for me. Whoopsie. Yeah, so we're going to do, maybe we won't just run the script because I'm going to need to do some of this stuff by hand. With those things in mind, Look for the pound replace me comments inside of here. Ah, so that's what I was missing. So inside of here, I need to search pound. Ooh. Somebody messed something up because I don't know about you, but I don't see replace me on the end of these things. So somebody may have dropped the replace me's. See? Okay, and then the file is large and could be intimidating. It's a big block of YAML. YAML's ugly, but I don't know if I would call it intimidating. Execute the following to build and launch. Okay. Okay, so we got to do the provisioning thing first to get some variables set up, and then we got to do the deploy thingy to make it go. Okay. Seems simple. The one other thing that I'm noticing, does this do... Kind of want to look at their Docker file real quick. Ah, okay, so they're going to compile inside the container. Got it. Cool, cool, cool. I was wondering what was actually going to build and publish the app. Apparently their Docker file does it themselves. So, brief primer on Docker files and containerization for people unfamiliar with it. There's an old joke where the developer tells his manager, it works on my box, and the manager replies, well, fine then, we'll just ship your box out to all of the clients. Docker is effectively an enterprise-grade solution like that. It allows the developer's system, because quite often developers have all kinds of tools installed, to be codified and effectively the operating system abstracted away from the running application. So you can almost think of this as defining the environment under which your app needs to run and then codifying that so you can just, put it in a box or a container, as it were, and, stamp that and deploy it out everywhere. Okay, so let's go back and let's execute provision. So AZ login, we can start there, but I'm pretty sure I'm already logged in. So hold that thought. I'm gonna just move this over to here, and I'm gonna just take this and just slide it over here. Uno momento. So short version: do the needful to log in. And then real quick, I'm going to do one extra step that they didn't call out here, where I just pin my subscription to the right one. Let's see here. AZ account, something. I got to remember the command. AZ account set, -s, paste subscription ID, say, boom. Okay, so for those people curious, just running this because I've got multiple subscriptions and I just want it to make sure it goes to the one I expect. Okay. Step 1 done. AZ group create, that'll make me a resource group. We're not going to do that because we already have a resource group. Let's see, I called it voting, not voting app, so we'll do that. And then next step, they want to create that. So let's actually do a couple things. We're going to change this to be WestUS 3. Something tells me this is actually, when doing it at the command line, it's supposed to be this. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure there's a slight difference there. Voting app is the cluster name. Oh, that works. And then my container registry, which is back here. Voting ACR because reasons. Boom. Okay, so there's all of that. We've done that. Install the Kubernetes CLI. Done that. So we're gonna first plug these things into my terminal. So paste anyway. There we go. So we got all the variables. Lovely. We need to authenticate against the cluster. So do that maneuver. Sudo go get me all the things. Lovely. Let's see. create a container registry account and log into it. Well, we've already got a container registry. We do need to get its ID as a variable, so we'll do that. There we go. We need service principal name. Why naming is ACR. So the name of mine, why it contains ACR. So ACR is just shorthand for Azure Container Registry. And in short, when I made these things by hand, I picked the first name that seemed reasonable that wasn't already taken. Container registries are an Azure resource that has to have a URL associated with them, so they must be globally unique. So when you're making one, you have to pick a name that is not shared with the rest of the world. This is interesting. They're assuming a service principal with that name. I feel like I missed a step somewhere. Going back to the README. And we're going to do it here just so that I can keep track. Let's see. Before deploying the app, you'll need to provision the following resources. A resource group, a service principal. Oh, so are they about to create the service principal? Maybe I should read the rest of the script. AZSP create. Ah, haha. They're going to create the service principal. Okay. Carry forth. Carry forth. So we will declare a variable. This is just setting up a string variable with the service principal name. Great. And then this is going to do service principal create for RBAC with scopes and all of the things, which is great. I am realizing that I'm hoping when I created, they didn't set anything special here. I'm hoping I didn't need to set anything special when I made this. So worst case scenario, we'll blow away the cluster and go back and create theirs by hand. Okay. The output includes credentials you might want to protect, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So query password, yes. But we stored it in this lovely variable that as long as I don't echo, we're fine. Okay. And then we're going to go here, get the service principal ID into a variable. Well, points awarded for whoever made this script. It seems to be going swimmingly. Grab the login server. Okay, great. And then what is this doing? Kubectl, create secret, Docker registry. So this is just setting up a secret for doing authentication. This is interesting because I'm not actually sure this is necessary. I did some setup to connect my ACR to my cluster already, which they did not do using managed identity. So this, well, we're going to follow the directions for the moment, but may not be completely necessary. Let's see here. What are you complaining about? Getting credentials, blah, blah, blah. Cube login not found. It looks like you're trying to use a client Go credential plugin that is not installed. Well then, we're going to continue on without doing this. Because if this is doing what I think it's doing, this is just giving an authenticated user so that the cluster can reach the ACR. And I don't think that's actually needed. Okay, next up, we are going to go to the README and hunt for the pound replace me. Because, yeah, this is where, surprised they aren't passing these in. Especially going to all of this effort for deployment stuff. Okay, so key thing here is image name ACR. So, or I should say collection for it. But we just need to grab this guy here and slap it in. Let's see, where is the other one? So there's the first one. Image pull secrets. See, and this is where they were trying to create the secrets. We may not care. again, I don't think I actually care. We're gonna see it. We're gonna see if it's able to pull without. I think the okay, and technically you only needed to replace this image one because the secret, if you follow the provisioning script, should have, I think, hard coded that secret, didn't it? Maybe I'm wrong there. Well, we're going to carry on and see what happens. Worst case scenario, it goes boom. Okay, deployment. Okay, so we've already got these variables, and I think they already match resource group, location, cluster, West US. Yeah, we've already got ACR login server, so that's done. We do need to log in. This is actually important. When you're using the Azure CLI, you do need to log into the ACR separately from logging into the Azure CLI. Do the needful. Gracias. Okay, so now I can push and pull stuff. And they just want to do it all in one swing. So okay, I think the appropriate word is send it. Oh yeah. Wait. Is that supposed to work? I don't know if that's supposed to work. Okay, so we're gonna do this the slower way. We're gonna go here. So this here, you'll note it's doing a ton of work, but under the hood, all that's happening for the Docker build is it's going through and performing the exact steps that are outlined here. So just a couple things to call out. The from command in your Docker file specifies like a base image or a base layer for you to go through and reference. So in this case, it's setting up a base layer with a, or I should say, it's first setting up kind of like the call stack. You've got your ASP.NET Core runtime version 6. Then on top of that, it sets up the SDK, where then it's going to do things like .NET Restore, .NET Build. It then is going to do a publish, where it takes the publish bit, and you'll note these layers are named base and build. And then it goes through and copies them into a final. So the things that were copied into the app directory get copied from the publish into app.publish, and then this tells it how to start the app. So this is very similar and darn near identical. If you right click on a project in Visual Studio and you hit add and then Docker support, it will gen you up a Docker file that looks very similar to this, with a few difference in the ports exported. Okay, so we've got that going. We now need to come back here. Vision. Okay, Docker push. And send it. And part of the niceness of Docker and all of these layers, you can kind of almost think of them like NuGets and dependencies. Not quite, but kind of. Where there's kind of these dependent layers. So even though I may push up, what is it, 8 things here initially, if in the future only one layer changes, I only have to push the one. So it gets to be nice like that. Of it, your initial like Docker pull, Docker pushes can be a little big, and then after that you can kind of just do the deltas. Okay, and we can go out real quick and just validate that we see this guy here. If we go repositories, we should see a thing. Huzzah! We've got a voting app. It has the tag of latest. We could confirm that our hash matches, but we are only interested in seeing it go. Okay, so kubectl apply. Okay, this will be the part where if it's going to fail, It looks like you're. Oh, do I just not have the CLI stuff installed? Let's start there. We may just be missing this. I could have sworn I already had all of this. Let's see. The detected architecture is ARM. Blah blah blah. Okay, I'm going to go back and let's actually start with this. Can I cube cuddle? Okay, I can cube cuddle. Okay, so step 1 complete. Client Go credential plugin that is not installed. Why? Did I miss something? I feel like I missed something. Something important. To learn more, fine, I'll click the link. What are you? Do you not have dark mode? Don't see it immediately available. Refresh to get me to the page. Let's see. Take me there, please. Go credential plugins. Da, da, da. Yeah, this doesn't seem. Something I'm missing. I'm wondering. Oh, I bet you when I set up my cluster. I bet you when I set up my cluster, I probably did Azure RBAC. Ew. Receive user credentials. Da da da. Yes. Okay. Ba ba ba. Looking to enable. As exciting as this is, I almost wonder if it's quicker to bring down and recreate the cluster. It might be that quick. Let's see here. Because ultimately, is the AKS. Show me what was buried in here real quick. Oh, Docker, you hush. Dev spaces. Da, da, da. We can do the check ACR, but I don't think that's what we're looking for. Okay, credentials. Da, da, da. Show, stop, update credentials. Service principal. Da, da, da. Okay. I'm wondering. See details. AZAKS command invoke. Ahaha. This the magical. Is this the new magic? Run a show on your AKS cluster. Ah, that sounds like what I want. AZAKS command invoke. Let's see, and I'm gonna need a -C. Tell it the command. I'm going to need to tell it the name of my cluster, which I've already forgotten. Oh, I can just use my cluster name variable. whole point in doing that. And then my resource group name, which I should have a variable for that too. Bippity boppity, send it. Oh, and invoke is spelled with a K. Oh, I'm probably gonna need to attach the file. I'm gonna go out on a limb and guess that this thing fails with some issue about not being able to find deployment.yaml. Because if it's gonna run, the dev world needs spell check. This particular dev in particular. Yeah, the path for the file doesn't exist. What a shock. Okay, so send it, and we'll see where that goes. Okay. This is better. Right. So I don't have permissions. Okay, so this is once again because I set up RBAC and then didn't give myself access. Right. Right. Okay. Okay. Back up to the resource group into AKS. I am add role assignments. Okay. Let's see. Let you manages all resources in the cluster. I think that's what we want. I would like full access. Let's see. And then I would like it to be, sorry, 1 second, because I don't remember what this is all going to show. So we're going to just do that. There we go. Okay. I picked me, view and assign. I would like to be cluster admin. Sudo make me an admin. Okay. Rinse, repeat, try again. Let's see. Go, Azure, go. Okay, air resource, v1 resource deployments. Name Redis for server. Deployments apps, Redis is forbidden. User cannot get resource. User does not have access to the resource in Azure. Update role assignments to allow access. Is this just because you're slow, cluster? I kind of want you to go faster, please. I'm going to give it a moment, and then I'm going to just kick it one more time because I suspect I should have plenty of access. View my level of access. Lets you manage all resources in the cluster, i.e., I should have access to deployments. Yeah, deployments apps, Redis is forbidden, cannot get resource deployments. So we'll just call this out. When you're looking at these YAMLs for Kubernetes, resources are broken up into different types, usually specified on this kind attribute here. So deployments. So it is squawking saying that I don't have access to deployments, and it's blowing up at Redis first because that's just the first file in there. I assume I'm getting the same thing further down. Yeah, I don't have access to service. This is my user, I believe. 414F. Role assignments. You go away. I think this is my user. 414F. Yep. So it is using me. Okay, great. That's what we expect. Go back. I'm going to assume that the permissions just hadn't propagated quick enough. Yeah, go. Try again. This time with permissions. Sometimes the IAM stuff in Azure does take a few minutes to propagate when you make a change. So if you make the change and it's not immediately apparent, sometimes give it a moment. Okay. Huzzah! We have deployed. Now, the other thing to be aware of with Kubernetes is when you deploy out, it is a desired state configuration. So you tell Kubernetes, I would like the following, and Kubernetes is your butler and says, yes, sir, let me go create all of that stuff for you. That does not mean your app is working. It just means the butler said, I'm on it, and is going to then go and try. So we're going to come over here, and hopefully we see some stuff. We see a voting app. I mean, it shows green, which kind of implies it's up. Okay, so that's a good thing. Let's see, deploy. And so they want this command executed next. I wonder why they're wanting to do a rollout restart. Huh. Don't know. Gonna run it anyway. Let's see. So we're gonna do this. Oh, I didn't get rid of enough kubectls. And then this one doesn't require the file, so we'll get rid of this. That should just go, and then the question will be seeing if we can hit it and have it work, because that would be cool. Let's see. Well, registered. I mean, that kind of looks like success to me. Full title. What is your favorite stream to watch? This is going to be a biased poll. Option value. Which dev. Add. What do I do? Create? I don't know what this thing is. Where did it... Hey, where did my polls go? How do I get to my polls? Is the app actually working? I'm very confused. Delete, delete, delete. Okay, the delete button works. The add button. The add button leaves a little to be desired. Okay, so there may be some bugs in this software. Okay, if I go create on the demo. Okay, so creating a poll works. What is this thing's error issue? I really wasn't planning on debugging this. 404, 404. Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that some of this may not be all the way hooked up. Like I'm somewhat wondering if what ports did this thing exposed several ports. Something may not be wired correctly, but if I go green, red, yeah. So something's okay. So this thing leaves a little bit to be desired for debugging and deployment. Here, you sit there, you sit there. Share this poll. I would love to share this poll, but how would somebody get to the poll? Errors occurred. Reload. Invocation canceled due to under. List of component records is not valid. So we've got some errors here. Okay, so next step. Okay, I'm happy this thing deployed, and I'm happy it is working. Okay, so the fact that that thing went to the cluster and went green means that the cluster is set up the cluster was able to reach over to the ACR, because you'll note that the command that we ran, the kubectl deployment, this guy here, the deployment YAML doesn't actually contain our app. What it contains instead is a reference to the ACR where to get the app from. So when it fired up, it reached across to our ACR, grabbed the image that we deployed, pulled it back across, and then built this whole thing up. So it was able to pull, so this image pull secret's not needed. The stuff I set up to connect them earlier works just fine. Because it was able to pull our app and deploy it, but the app apparently has some problems. So let's fix it. I mean, I don't know about you, but that's my thought is let's take a peek, see at this app and see what's going on. Because at the end of the day, I want to be able to modify this app to do stuff. So we got it deployed to Kubernetes. That was easy. Easy. But the nice part is this thing is set up such that it knows my desired state, and Kubernetes will scale up and try to account if things come under heavy load or if something crashes, make sure things get restarted. It's very convenient because we have now told it what we want it to do. It now just actively goes and does the needful to try to maintain that state, which is perfect. Okay, we got an app. Step 1, launch app. Let's see if we see the same problem locally. I'm a little curious how this is actually set up. So there is some custom stuff defined for pulling in hosting environment. I am noticing that it does use, if you're not in development, it assumes Kubernetes, which is cool, and pulls stuff in. Okay, so let's see how maybe this app works better locally. So autofill, create, try demo, try double voting. You've already voted in that poll. Got it. Oh, I see. So it's just URL based, right? So if I go create, this guy here is that. So it's URL/p/share address. Okay, that's great. Simulate other votes. I mean, locally, it looks like it works great. Oh, Blue's pulling ahead. This is actually rather entertaining just to watch on its own. That's kind of cool. Okay, but what we would like to do is see this actually working on remote server, right? Because at the end of the day, we would like to go whoop and create pull, auto, create. So, and this is where things start to fall over pretty quick. It looks like the Signal R stuff is dying. Oh, so now, hold on, the add button's now working. Test. Foo. Bar. Create. This only gave me one, and then it fell over. Okay, so what is going on? Failed to start transport. Okay, so it's trying to connect to the Signal R endpoint, and excuse me, and just straight up blowing up. Okay, so let's check it here. Okay, so we're getting some 404s on here. Hey, would you stop it? Stop it. I want to resize the column. Stop being dumb and let me resize. Be big. Okay. Underscore K. So some fetches failed. Why would we get bitten there? Importantly, why would we get some 404s there? And just to confirm, we should not be seeing the same there. If we just pop you open, you sit on the side, create pull. All right, so this guy here is perfectly happy. So there's a number of things. Something is unhappy about. Why am I though? I'm missing the thing. There are too many bright lights in my face. I can't see where my title bars are. Okay. So yes, that works fine locally, but when we are, I don't understand what these calls are for. That's just a fetch. Negotiate version. Okay, so let's look at the SignalR configuration, see how this is set up. So add scoped, add server-side Blazor, add Razor pages. Let's see. Add Redis clustering configuration. Redis address. Redis address is coming from the environment variable on port 6379. So let's check the deployment and make sure that we actually got that set up. So there is a service, Redis 6379. But I don't think the connection to Redis is the problem. It's the SignalR setup that is appearing to fail. Am I blind? Where is the SignalR stuff? Not buried in here, is it? You wouldn't be hiding in here, would you? Use Kubernetes configuration. Let's see. Typed client, get required service. You don't happen to be hiding SignalR under the hood, do you? I kind of think you might be. Close, Robert. If by WPF you mean Kubernetes, Microsoft Orleans, then yes, you are spot on the mark. I don't understand where this thing gets its setup. Configure endpoints, advertise gateway, listen on host. Figure that's just user. Sorry, we don't use Orleans. We use AKS. Well, so I tried to take their lovely little demo that they've put together and deploy it out to a cluster, which I've successfully done so. And I guess to be fair, if anybody wants to pound on the cluster, there you go. And it's obviously failing, and it appears to be failing due to SignalR endpoints. And I'm just not entirely clear where the heck it actually sets up its SignalR stuff. Or even more, which calls in particular are failing. Like I see the fetches that are failing. I'm just not clear what the heck. Why one of these fetches would succeed and one of these fetches would fail. Let's see here. The server is blocking WebSockets. That then does raise the question, how does one unblock it? Because I don't know how to configure Orleans. So maybe we ask the Googles. Uh, this might be useful. Oh, Kubernetes sample application. There. Okay, great. Great. What I'm interested in is seeing your setup. This looks remarkably similar to what we did. There's the Redis stuff. There's that. Oh, did I not? Hang on. Did I not set a cluster ID on ours? No, we did. Cases where you are not using rolling deployments, blue-green deployments, this value can allow for distinct clusters do not communicate with each other, but which still share the same storage and other resources. This feels like I did the right thing. Define ports which Orlean uses. 5 ones, 30,000. I think we define those same ports. Oh, look at that. Now, I don't know if anybody, hang on, we might have to check more, but there's ASP.NET Core ports. Because they might just be mapping it on the other side. Orleans dashboard. Oh, let's hypothetically go take a little gander at the Orleans dashboard then while we're looking. Might as well. Do you have a dashboard sitting there? Did mention it in the README. Orleans dashboard. Oh, I'm noticing the role bindings. For RBAC enabled clusters, the Kubernetes service account for the pods may also need to be granted required access. Oh. That would not explain a mismatch on the WebSockets, but that is interesting. You'll need to provision a role and corresponding role binding if your cluster is RBAC enabled, which it is. But yeah. Good. I didn't even read that far, but I did that anyway. Perfect. Execute the following. We did that. We did that. Get pods watch. Get service. Right? So this is wanting us to do this guy here. This runaround is kind of slow. Kind of tempted to turn that off. Like, I know it has to do the authentication stuff and everything, but come on. When I invoke a CLI. Yeah, so same IP as the one that I did before. There's all that. Huzzah, huzzah, huzzah. Now, the interesting part is it claims there's a dashboard, but I don't know where. I don't know what the route would be to it. Because it doesn't really say. Full editor, host, air. It's all the Orleans data stuff. Main layout, nav menu. Where do you live? Are you hosting local or in Azure? Well, so when I run locally, it works just fine. This one is actually in Azure and AKS. So I do actually have it out here. And again, it is technically deploying. If anybody wants to see the code, sure, this will work. Aside from the variable names to match my like resource group and cluster and whatnot, I have made no changes to it. So it is also interesting. Their image does not match. Their image does not match the running app. So that's exciting. The dashboard will be available here. So hold on, let's fire this guy up. I want to see this dashboard. What is this dashboard supposed to look like? Because if locally 888 it just deploys. Okay, so is the Azure instance enabling WebSockets? Is by default most of the time WebSockets are blocked or not enabled? See, that is a great question, Robert, and the answer is I have no bloody idea. Okay, I'm gonna assume seems to work for me. Can you be more specific? Hitting my site seems to work for you? Because that would be cool. Or when you pull it locally, it's working for you. Because I've clearly done something stupid. Which is a very strong possibility. I will say the other thing that I have done slightly differently, I haven't done anything with WebSockets, just hitting the IP loads your site. Okay, can you do me one more favor? Uh, ba, ba, ba. Uh, do, do, do. If hitting that works, check Teams. Yeah, Robert, I just saw it. I have the dev tools popped on this guy, and I believe I'm seeing the same information. Um, long pulling fallback. So it's so the normally I would go and attempt to change this, normalizing Blazor to here. It's failing to make a proper WebSockets connection. I'm wondering if there was an error with the transport. I don't know what to do with that, nor do I actually know how to enable it. So that's part of why I was looking at this guy's other sample, because apparently they turn on the appropriate stuff. And maybe I'm just stupid, but something seems to be different than this is what I love is everybody has samples, and sample no worky for me. And not clear why. Because a lot of this README appears to match the default Orleans one. Is there anything fancy that was done inside of here? Because this guy, they don't do anything fancy. They effectively the same thing. I'm gonna just check his configuration. Don't see anything that would cause me any headaches. This one is an older Net 5 one. And a slightly older one here. So, okay, Kubernetes hosting. Let's take a look here. Package adds integration, because this is the big difference between the local dev environment and not, is these set of changes here. I'm thinking set the pod ID. So these ones here. So the fact that 30,000 isn't exposed might be problematic. I'm wondering if that's the change, is that the Kubernetes Orleans package changed where it's going and the cluster isn't exposing it. So let's see. Define the ports on which Orleans uses. And which pods it is running in. Great. Okay, so I think this is probably, I'm gonna assume this is probably close. Updated March. Okay, so let's start here. I think what we want to do is we want to do these, right? And assume that this is going to be set up there, I think. So let's go back to our deployment. Let's see, HTTP, HTTPS. And we're going to do, yeah, so if we expose those ports on the container, though I don't know if this is going to make much of a difference, because the issue is with the client browser trying to get back. You know what? Because I don't know how they're configuring this under the hood, we're going to just send it. Okay, so fire in the hole. Kubectl apply. Deploy that out. The other thing we could do is we could actually pull the logs. I guess that's another thing. I don't know if there will be much of interest, but if we go here, I believe. Oh, hold up. What do we got going on? Oh, almost like, oh, wait, this is in the middle of a deployment. Never mind. So you'll note unchanged, configured, unchanged. Okay. So this thing went. We'll give it a moment, because this thing is probably in the process of deploying itself. Here's a new one up and running. Let's just take a little look-see at the container logs. Projected volume. There's all the stuff. Orleans service ID, cluster ID. And those are all sourced. Great. That seems to align with the documentation that we just saw. Live logs. Come on, give me logs. Logs. Select a pod. I thought I already did. Come on. Streaming logs will appear as available. But one of the things that might be mildly obnoxious is the scale of this thing. We're gonna make this easy. We're gonna dial this thing down to 1 replica. We don't need 3 copies of it yet. We'll do 1 copy, make it work. That way I don't have to worry about, like, wires getting crossed. 1 instance. Okay, so logs are flowing. Huzzah. But let's wait until the deployment succeeds. Because this should... Okay, so now we're down to 1. Huzzah. Okay, so now we only got 1 instance of the app. Thank goodness. Okay, now when we hit it, we're going to be hitting the 1. Okay, so we go here. We go here. We go clicky on URL. Nope. Stop it. Sure. Refresh. And then create poll. Autofill. Create. Maybe it was just a port number. That may have to test that here in a second. But that looks like success to me. That definitely looks like success. Okay, back to create poll. Is your favorite stream? And we're gonna go with which ad YouTube ad so create, obviously, and then if I share this poll out, theoretically people can go to that URL and then vote. And then with any luck, if someone could click a button, that would make me feel really good, because I'd like to see something come through that's not me. And without me having to spin a VM and sudo somebody else. Okay, so if that seems like it's working, that might be okay. That is cool. We might leave it down at 1 replica for now, because the goal is to test it and push it over. So I'll leave it sitting there. No one else is clicking the button. That's fine. That's fine. But okay, so that is sitting there. That is deployed. Okay. Okay. Now onto the weirdness. Python. Okay. So I believe I have Python installed. Let's new tab for now. Python. Okay. I do know a small amount of Python. Emphasis on small. Feel free to mock me. Okay, so step 1, install Python. Check. Step 2, install Locus. Sentence I never thought I would need to say, but sure, let's do that. Again, I want to see how hard I can push this little guy and have it go. I'm guessing somebody clicked to simulate other votes. Given that I'm seeing vote counts that are exceeding the number of viewers on the stream, I'm going to guess that happened. So, points awarded. I did. Sorry. Don't be sorry. I find it kind of funny. But at least now we get to see the votes trickle in. So, again, my goal is I want to know how hard I can push Orleans on a tiny little VM before the thing falls over. That's the goal. And I don't know if this code's really been optimized or if it's small sample code. I suspect the latter, but I'm still curious to know. And I'm also curious to learn this locus thing a little bit. So, okay, so that's going. The other thing we kind of want to look at is this button. Or can we just do insights? I thought there was a nice, one of these has a nice overview. Container status not configured. For each node, in addition, you can Prometheus metrics to get insights about performance and health. You know what? I don't intend to leave this cluster running. How much could it possibly cost? Managed identity preview. Oh, log analytics workspace. I can guarantee you that's the expensive bit. Logs in Azure can get very expensive very quick. So let's do this because I don't know if I necessarily need Prometheus yet. Okay, you do the needful, and then hopefully this thing goes, and I get pretty metrics. Did we not turn you on? Are you still going? Let's see. This will be a lesson in how to burn all your Azure credits in a single day. The other thing we could probably do that might be worth going is this guy here. This might be good enough to watch. See all metrics. We can probably do it in here. Select metrics. CPU usage percentage. So that's probably, yeah, I think we're going to be most interested in CPU and probably memory, I think is going to be what else I care about. Memory working set bytes. See how this goes. Dear Azure, my numbers are cut off. I'm sure that's a tiny number, but okay. That's a large time scale. That is a good point. Yeah, I would like to dial this in smaller. How do I get in closer? Oh, local time, last 24 hours. How about last 30 minutes? There we go. That's better. That's better. That's better. Okay, so short version, the thing running on auto votes is like not a lot. It can handle that. But I would argue whatever this thing's doing to simulate is probably not a ton. And the other thing is because it's Blazor, I'm guessing, Rollers, you must have closed your browser or migrated away because it's not going to push it that hard. Okay, so we'll leave that there. Because what I'd like to do is write a little test that goes into here and just have it click on one. I really don't care what. Validate your installation. Okay, we will validate our installation. Hang on, a new release. Oh yeah. Hold on. What are you unhappy about? Installing collected packages, running PyInstall, deprecation, something. You have to do a new PowerShell window. Ah, thank you. Huh? Oh, if it did, I bet you I have to shut the thing down. Let's go here. Okay. So I probably should have saved that line that it did. Let's just kick this off again real quick because I'm guessing. Because it is actually like it installed something. Like Python has something in here. Okay, so let's real quick. We're gonna do the pip upgrade because why not? You can access your previous commands by hitting the up arrow. Thank you. Yes, I often forget about that. I was mostly looking to get the output from the previous command, but yes, that would have been a much easier option. Do you have more than one version of Python installed? I certainly hope not. But I did do something a little unusual. Um, I did install these from the Windows Store, which in retrospect, probably not the normal way to install Python. Probably not. Okay. So let's see. This thing has done all of the stuff. Am I supposed to be... Okay, so as not a script file, check the spelling or try again. I am mildly confused as to how this is supposed to go. I'm somewhat tempted to think that it is somewhat tempted to try this. This will make for a full explanation. Write a locus file. Da 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 da. Okay, so hold on. Let's do something. Orleans. Let's see. Samples. Voting. Mictor. Let's do that. Let's just get ourselves into a reasonable state. I assume this is a Kubernetes thing, or what's the goal? So the goal here is I've got this little voting app deployed out in Kubernetes. I would like to load test it because I would like to know how many users a tiny little cluster can handle, right? Because if doing the simulated voting push this thing at like 5%, does that mean this thing's going to fall over at 100 users, 1,000 users? I'm wanting to try to figure out, because I've got a couple ideas of writing very similar apps to this that are kind of small voting level things. Yeah, so Locus was recommended as a reasonable load testing tool to try out. So I went, I don't know any better. Let's do it. Um, so the idea being that you're gonna have to end up running this. Yeah, because I really want to know. I really want to know if I want to deploy this out, what's the reasonable amount of load I can expect a cheapo cluster to do? Because when you do the new cluster in Azure, it gives you a couple options, and one of the options is how'd they phrase it, like a cost savings production, and the description on it was production workloads that are willing to tolerate some outages, right? This isn't I'm wanting 5 nines of uptime type situation. This is, yeah, I want to run my small business thing, or maybe my personal blog or whatnot. Outages aren't my biggest problem, right? That's okay. Like if I have a little downtime because there's a Kubernetes update running or whatever, you know, that's not the end of the world for me. Which is kind of what I want to see is what can I do with a very low end cluster. So that's the thinking. But apparently I don't know how to install Python. But Python is there. Locust apparently is there. I'm kind of wondering. I'm loading it in now. I'm kind of wondering if I should just. I'm wondering if I shot myself in the foot by installing Python via the Windows Store. Like on one hand, I was a little surprised, uh, and that's an option for. Yeah, so I do also have WSL set up with Ubuntu, which I could drop into as well. I just try Python 2 and Python 3. What is the Python version check? Is it that's a lot of details. Uh, Having both installed. Um, what is the Python? What's your version output thingy, mobobber? I guess I could do this. Python. So the only installs I appear to have are 3.11, and then apparently Visual Studio decided to help me out. And apparently the Azure CLI brings in 1, I'm guessing. Trying to see, one of these things is almost assuredly, oh, capital V. That's what I did wrong. I'm sorry, Python. Capital V. So it's picking up 3.11.0, which I'm going to go with is probably these ones. Let me just check what Visual Studio brought in with it. 3.9, so it didn't pick up, it's not picking up the Visual Studio. I'm not getting like some weird crosstalk thing, but let me just check these. 3.10. 3.7. So yeah, it's got to be picking up my Windows Store installed one, which is cool, but then that begs the question, where the heck did it put my Locust install? And why is that not added? Local because at the end of the day, it's kind of expecting this to be in the path, and I'm wondering if that's just the problem, is this isn't added to the path. So, and try with Python, I think. That is probably fair. What is, so that's the thing I don't know how to do, and this is probably an ignorance thing on my part with figuring out how to do this. I decided to build a site with Python Flash. That's not the worst thing in the world. Running without the web UI. Let's see. So this is for scripting. But they all still require this. I might just abandon hope and go and install Python normal per people way. And that will probably solve some of my problems. And if that doesn't work, I'm just going to drop into WSL and call it a day. And then we should probably go and I need to remove Python. So add remove programs and let's go find Python. Before we get too crazy and like install it, we're going to kill the old one off. Because it looks like Locust installs underneath it. So it should burn the whole thing to the ground. So that is one of the only wonderful things about Windows Store apps, which is kind of why I liked it, is they get all like containerized and boxed into their own little area. I was kind of happy about that. Oh, probably can't install while I'm inside of it running. Oh yeah, there it goes. Boom. It roasted the whole thing. There we go. So now if I check, yeah. So the only thing left is stuff that's not related to this. Okay, perfect. So we'll put real person Python on here. Open file. Yeah, sure. We'll take the default settings. How bad can it be? I hear a prompt. Okay. I heard a ding like there was a UAC prompt somewhere, and I'm like, I don't see it. Where is it? Okay, we're gonna shut you down. Just before I get too carried away, put you on my clipboard. When in doubt, installing Python from the Windows Store. Admittedly, I was kind of surprised when I saw it was an option. That should have been a red flag. Pathing issues galore, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure it's great for people getting started because they don't have to think too hard. But as somebody without disable path length limit. Okay. I kind of like that limit though, because it means when I'm writing code, if I've made bad assumptions on paths, I get whacked upside the head. Okay. Okay. Let's try this again. Okay. Let's start with the obvious. Python. Oh, you've got to be joking me. Sorry, it's opening the Windows Store on another screen. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. You have got to be who put you in charge? Um can I do it right from here? No, I didn't think you were going to be that cool. So, how do I do this if you don't want to play nice with the other children? Python was not found. Run without arguments to install from the Windows Store or disable this shortcut. Settings map. What the heck did you? Okay. Settings. Manage app execution aliases. Where is that option? App execution aliases. Did it not clean up? App installer. Off, off. Okay. Wondering if that may have been part of the problem. Okay. Python version. Did we not just install you? Close and actually, I'm gonna do this real quick. Windows Explorer restart. Because I know that you have a tendency to do bad things. Python version. Dear heavens, this was not supposed to be the hard part. Okay, try this again. Is it on the path? Good question. Let's go find out. So, environment variables. It certainly would appear not. Python. You did not. Let's try this one more time. I'm going to let it do a quick repair just to see. But it does appear that it is not on the path. Let's see. Python.exe. I mean, it's there. It has been installed, but apparently it no worky. It's where a race I would have won as I have it working. Yes, but you probably are smarter at Python than me. Okay. When in doubt, don't touch your lights. Goes poorly. I'm gonna let that sit there for the moment. It has fallen and wants to be mean to me. Not at all. He's never used Python on this laptop. Did you go and do it via the WSL route, or did you do it inside of Windows? WSL. Yeah. I'm this close to abandoning hope and just diving into WSL as well. Because that might be the path of least resistance. It might be the path of least resistance. To close. Okay, so we're gonna close, relaunch, and it could be, this may be a situation where it just doesn't exist. The path of least resistance. That wasn't supposed to be a pun until you said that, and now I think that now I'm gonna claim it was intentional. Okay, so we're gonna save ourselves a little bit of headache, and I'm just gonna do this. Copy environment variables, and nope, you come back, keep opening on the wrong screen. Environment variables, we're gonna go path, we're gonna go new, and we're gonna go paste, and we're gonna call it a day. Boom. Done. Scoop to install stuff like Python and Node.js. That's a good idea. I should have looked. I made the mistake 1 of going to the Windows Store. That was mistake number 1. Mistake number 2 was then installing it from there. And pretty much any CLI thing. Yeah, on Windows I tend to be chocolatey for all of mine, but the basic premise of always using some sort of package manager, huzzah! Okay, that was harder than it needed to be. Oh my word. Okay, why am I just dumb? Install the check the wiki if it fails. Is it okay? So let me guess. Sigh. Open path. Okay, so we'll add you to the path now too. Gonna be real good at this by the time I'm done. Okay, I'm sure there's probably a shortcut somewhere. Oh, nope. Into path, new, paste. There we go. Okay. Close, relaunch to make sure it gets the new variables. There's also a new one called Winget, which initially was, a lot of people were like, why do we need this? We already have Chocolatey. And they've started to improve it. And I've had some colleagues say that they've started switching over because previously Winget only had a small amount of things that it was able to install. But what I heard recently is they've added a swath of new stuff to where they claim you can install everything. My colleague was able to get all of his dependencies that he needed with Winget just fine without needing Chocolate. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So I don't know exactly what they added for packaging and deployment, but it looked interesting. But I will say I've only used it a little bit. Chocolatey still is by far the default package manager for Windows. Okay. Now, if I remember correctly, this command, show me a version number. Yes! Took way longer than it needed to. Okay. Orleans, samples, voting, CD, there. And then if I'm going to be writing Python, we're going to use VS Code. Okay. We got that. Now we go on to create first. We do something like this, right? And it tells us to name it. It showed me somewhere. I remember seeing this. Locusfile.py. That was, I don't know if that's important, but we are going to follow the directions at least to start. Boom. Okay, locus file py. We will do contents from there. Paste. Boom. Everyone's happy. Great. We come in here. We just type in locus. And it should do a thing. The Windows firewall is unhappy, so we hit allow. Yeah, typically the Windows Store isn't usually problematic, and I really like installing with things there because they, like I said, they get packaged up, so I don't have to worry as much about them, running amok of my system. The drawback then is then you can run into weird pathing things for apps that effectively get wrapped rather than written. So, okay. And it was localhost something, 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 something. Oh, it's apparently supposed to tell me the port here. So I want to go there. Okay. Okay. Number of users, host. Okay. This starts swarming. Now, I kind of imagine this thing doesn't do much. Let's see. You must specify the base host. Yeah. Okay. Not surprising. Okay. So we're going to do this. We're gonna come over. Nope. Wrong VS Code instance. I want this one. Or actually, I guess we can just go back to our. Can we do edit, close? How do I go back? And there we go. If I do that, that should go, and I imagine it's gonna start getting like. Okay, so it's cool. So it starts spawning requests per second. That's pretty good. So one user, 17 requests per second. One's going against hello, one's going against world. Okay, so those are the base URLs. Those aren't going to do jack. Okay, great. Okay, so now what we want to do, I want to make it click on a button. And I don't care if I have to hard code. Missed stuff, did the fresh install, fixed it. Let's see. So that's how we start. That's how we run. Ooh, how do I get here? Ooh, there's charts. There's pretty charts. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, so this will be the interesting part to watch, right? Is comparing. Now this isn't meaningful because it's doing dumbness. So let's make it do something not dumb, and then that'll be mildly more interesting. Okay. Need to quit changing my tabs so much so I can keep track of where I'm going. Cool charts, direct command line usage, headless, don't care. Okay, how do I make you go? Because this is task hello world, client get hello, client get world. That's great. I would like more control. Writing a locus file. That sounds like what I want. Okay, client get sleep post. Yeah, see, I don't even need that. I really just want to know, how do I interact with the browser, or do I have to simulate everything? Because if I can't interact with the browser, the fact that this is in WASM is going to get real hard real fast. On start, on stop. So I suppose we could just go straight against the. No, that's going to be a little harder. HTTP user class, session, validating responses, REST, grouping requests. Great. Proxy setting, connection pooling, task set, how to structure your code, yada, yada, yada. Okay, great. Is there not a Maybe I've misunderstood the point here. Because worst case scenario, I could simulate it on an endpoint. Uh, because all it's going to do is spam the HTTP request, it appears. Got it. Okay, so the question then comes, is there a reasonable option for doing this? So let's move you over to here. I don't think there is, but we're going to test. We're going to test. Testing. Option value. Ooh. Add. Create. Okay. I mean, you can get the home page. Is it Blazor server or Blazor WASM? Blazor server. That's so it's at least Blazor server because I know I saw that in here. Server side Blazor certainly. And Razor pages. I guess that's a good point. If it is just a Razor page, so then there should be, yeah. So both it looks like. Yeah, so we can get, yeah. So I can get the page. What I kind of want to do though is, I really would like to have it actually interact. It's a right. Sorry, I'm very new to the Blazor side. Because there's not a direct. Can you pass data on the route? Not currently, but I could change that. And I'm kind of wondering if that's the solution. Is just pass something through. Because there's nothing stopping me from passing data through. But currently, the only thing it takes in is a pull ID. But again, we could we could go through and do that. Yeah, because then where does vote for option? I assume this is just invoked up above on a click handler or something. Yeah. So this thing is literally, or just do a random. Yeah, that could work as well. Because all this thing does is it comes in on a page. Pull ID. I'm kind of wondering if we do something else on here where rather than just the pull, we do just give it something else like I don't know, vote index, right? And then get that to go through. Let's try that real quick, because that might be, that's probably the path of least resistance. Stop it. I know I hit the button, but do what I mean, not what I say. Right, and then just do that. And then on initialize, let's see. This should probably be nullable. If vote, so the old way still works. You can create 2 routes. Oh, that's a good point. So you're proposing something like that, I assume. I think that works. Uh, What's terrifying me is that Copilot has already figured this out. Thank you, Copilot. Is there anything else you'd like to do? You want to just do it all for me? Okay. So let's test it locally just to make sure it works, and then we'll push it. Okay. Test. Option 1. Add. Option 2. Add. Create. Okay. So this gets me in here. And then if I take this and I come at it and I do index 1, so that should vote for option 2. Unable to cast object of type. Got it. Okay, so you are. Okay, fine. Fine. Do that. So how about if int try parse vote index out int there. And maybe we should do some mild amount of bounds checking, perhaps. And vote index is greater than or equal to 0, and vote index is less than. Do we already have the? Do we have the options loaded at this point? Get poll results. Does poll state have it on there? Question, yeah, poll state options dot count. So I want result dot options dot count. So something like that. A mild amount of error checking. Okay, fire this up. Create poll. Test 1. Add 2. Add. I'm gonna do 3 just so I can verify we're hitting correctly. Create. We go here. We go here. We go here. We do 1. We go enter. It's interesting that it immediately triggered that you've already voted in this poll. Oh, probably because it sees me as the same user. Oh. Okay. So interesting theory. Let's go back to our locus test then. Right? Client get, and so this is going to be relative to this, right? So we're going to feed it that, and I really just want to have it do /1 because we're going to give it that for the base URL. Because I'm going to end up feeding it into the poll, and I just want it to go relative to that. I think that's what I want. And then localhost. Number of users. Let's go with 4. And then base address there. Start swarming. And then I should see, theory, if it's able to hit it, I should see at least some votes come through. Right? Let's see. Failures, 100% failure rate. That is excellent. What are the failures? Cert verify failed. Self-signed certificate. I got bad news for you. This is going to be okay. Locus, can I tell you to ignore self-signed? Yeah, I had the same thought. Can I tell it to not care? I am not the first one to want to run this against localhost. Let's see. Configuration, maybe. Host, num user, spawn rate. Uh, optional path. Worker. I mean, I could set it up, I guess. But this looks like its TLS certificate for serving up the web. Oh yeah, web UI. Yeah, that's not what I want. I want it config file path. Okay. Um, available configuration options. Let's go there. Nope. And nope. And nope. Okay. So worthless. Okay. This uh self bum faster HTTP client da, da, da. Oh, that looks like we may have a winner. You can turn off this. Perfect. That's what I wanted. Thank you. We come here. And apparently we do that. We do that. We do that. And we call it a day, I think. Right? By adding below method. Using the following code from locus. This is. Wait, vey. Yeah, I think we're gonna try first option. This seems like a much easier approach. Okay, kill, launch, and then back over to here. Reload. One. Paste. Start. And then I should see votes. In theory. Because they are succeeding. No failures. Current ratio. Which is fine. I am very curious. CPU gets overwhelmed and computer crashes. Don't joke. I have had streams where I have accidentally been playing around with stuff and then fork bombed my own system. OBS does not work when you fork bomb your system. It's really horrible. Yeah, that's pretty much how it goes. Oh, do I have to vote? Oh, request rate exceeded. This thing has request. What? Huh? Wait, what? I mean, so basically, uh, what? Where's that set up? I mean, I'm impressed. I'm kind of curious how much Orleans is hidden behind some of these things. Okay, what all do you have on you? Because actually, maybe I should just search Orleans request rate because that's gonna be a bit of a problem if I'm trying to push it. Okay, so let's close some of these things down because I don't need all of you. Yeah. So we're gonna go here, we're gonna go here, we're gonna go here. Oh, that's an interesting chart. Huh. Oh, this is actually connected to the same instance. Got it. Oh, that's cool because it was running for so long. Oh, that is clever. That is clever. I'm closing you. Let's see. Orleans, da, da, da. How do I limit? Rate limiting for .NET. Like, I know rate limiting is a thing, and I know they added cool APIs for it. Yeah, so this is a .NET 7 coolness that they added, which is slick because building rate limiting is really hard to do well, and it's impressive that there's now a nice little thing in the box to do it. But so for starters, this is a net 6 project. It's not referencing any of the, as far as I'm aware. Just make sure that Orleans package didn't bring in something weird, did it? No. Yeah, there's no weird 7.0 dependencies dropping in. That would be unusual for a 6.0 to all of a sudden pick up 7.0 dependencies. Okay, so it's probably not that. I do wonder if there's a health check actually set up and running on this too. I should check. Let's see. Duplicate tab. Oh yeah, we've hit some sort of back off. Is there a health check? No, so there's no health checks actually set up. Which I'm not. Configure web host defaults, yada yada yada. So this is just the regular health check stuff. Oh, this is a grain health check. This is different. This is interesting. Performance health check. Well, that's interesting. So this thing could actually end up. Wait. So in Orleans, a grain is the. Let me phrase. As I understand it, a grain is the smallest unit of data. And the nice part is you interact with the grains and you don't worry about necessarily the backing storage mechanisms or how those are being dealt with. You get to focus on the important stuff, and Orleans handles the heavy lifting, which is perfect. That's what sane people would want. It's just cool that you could do like CPU Orleans health check and set those up. That is pretty cool. Okay, so that's firing off and running. I guess then the question that maybe we should test is just the loading of this page, right? Is maybe I should just have this guy fire off. So this would be the vote task, and maybe we're gonna turn this one off for the moment. And I'm gonna do a second one that's just I don't know, call it load poll, right? And it's just going to go at the root, right? And so we will go here. Actually, now that I'm realizing how that works, I probably need to close it and relaunch. I don't actually know if I need to, but that then makes me realize I could probably start testing the cluster just by feeding it this URL. We're going to try it. host, number of users. Let's do a modest 10. Start swarming. Okay, we're going to go with charts. And I'm most interested in response time and seeing if that goes up. And then I'm also curious to go and look at the cluster and look at those metrics and see what we see here. I thought I already had this open. We're going to do CPU usage percentage. And then we want to dial this down into small time range. And then I wanted to do working set percentage. And this thing isn't even noticing. That's impressive. So if I put that graph over there, that graph over there. Okay, so at least in terms of response time, nothing's changed. Okay? Number of users. We're going to just do orders of magnitude. And so I'm going to apologize as you're slow at reporting those metrics sometimes. It is, and it can drag behind by like a minute or two. But this is still reporting basically a constant response time. So I'm not as concerned about the Azure metrics, because ultimately, if the thing's under too much load, what I would expect to happen is to see these response times start to climb. Now, admittedly, it's not doing a lot, right? It's just hitting the page. But that page initialize is doing the loading of the poll at least. So mild amounts of load. But again, I am curious to see how this plays out. And I did note, so there is a small increase here. Small increase. CPU load is going up. But we're going to wait till this thing gets capped up at 100, and then we'll let it sit for a minute. The other thing that I probably need to check is sign in on another tab. The node pools on this cluster are set to scale. So remember, we dialed down our app to only one replica. So there is one instance of this application. We could very easily scale it out. Oh, dear heavens, Microsoft. I have gotten myself somehow stuck in a login loop. Let me in. Let me in. Wow, that was... I don't know how many times I attempted to log in on that one. The other thing is I kind of suspect it may be hitting the rate limit cap on it. Oh. Where's remove from group? Duplicate tab. Remove from group. I don't want to be in a group. And I don't want you to be in a group. Remove from group. Thank you. Okay. So I kind of suspect that if I try to reload this page here. Yeah, so whatever rate limiting is going on, it is definitely pounded on it. But I am wondering if it did any scaling of the node pool as well. Let's just take a quick gander here. So it hasn't even bothered to scale up the node pool yet. So from Kubernetes perspective, this thing isn't under much load. because the memory set has remained more or less constant. The CPU load has increased, and we've obviously increased our response time. But I mean that isn't bad considering the response time is gone up to 160, 170, 180. Okay. So, short version is somewhere between 10 and 100. We have a noticeable change. We go from a response time, an average response time in the 50s to a response time in the low 100s. Ballpark. Okay. Sounds like a weak server. Oh, this is a very weak server. I dialed this. I very intentionally set up this Kubernetes cluster with a very weak VM scale set underneath it, because I wanted to see what kind of load a weak one could handle. But I'm also only running one instance of the application, so I think that's what I want to try next. Is let's dial that. Let's not have one instance of our app. Let's have 3. And I need to do the grumble. AZ AKS. Oh, and I already forgot. Blazor user with 10,000 requests without huge spikes. So I was wondering. Yeah, so I'm guessing you're probably running on a much more reasonable server. So this guy here, if you are interested, is a. We saw it a second ago. It's a B tier node, dedicated with 16 cores. Yeah, so that's a little beefier than what I dialed this thing up on. Why am I not seeing my node pool sizes? Yes. B2MS. Isn't there a... Where was the flyout with the configuration on it? I'm trying to remember. This thing is much smaller than that. Scale. There we go. Yeah, so 4 vCPUs, 16 gigs. So a quarter of the core, well, significantly less. So a bursty 4-core, we'll put it that way. But it does have auto scale on this pool to rev up to a second instance if it ever gets to the point where it needs it. But at least for now, I mean, it's kind of tapering off on the CPU usage at 25%, which I'm not surprised Kubernetes goes, I've got one instance. It's only being pushed at a quarter of its juice. I'm not spinning another instance, so I'm not surprised. I would love to get it. I would love to find where it has that rate limiting in there, but I also want to just push this thing up. AZ AKS command, because I lost my thingy. Command, there it is. Book. That's the magic. Okay, so I need the name, the resource group, and I lost all my variables because we shut down the terminal for reasons. So we're gonna go there. See, name of Kubernetes cluster is there. Resource group is there. And the command in question will be the kubectl something or another. That's provision, that's deploy. I want this. And that goes there. But then I need the file. Oh, hang on. This ain't gonna work because I'm in the wrong directory. CD dev Orleans samples coding. Yeah, deployment.yaml. That's where I want to be. So now I need deployment.yaml to be included, and away we go. Sorry, I deployed that, but I'm now wondering, good. I did set my replicas up to 3. Okay, so that should, in a moment, come on, AKS. There we go. That configured. Let's go back and there. I want to check my workload. And here in a moment, we should see 3 instances. Huzzah! We are running. We're going to come back here. We'll do a new pull. New test. Option value 1. Or I'm sorry, add. Uh-oh. Test. No, I'm wondering something. Oh, no, never mind. I'm wrong. I just can't click. That's fine. It's interesting that this thing is now failing. It's running as net 7, right? So I took the Orleans sample at the moment. So it is running as a net 6 app. I didn't bother to update it. I was trying to avoid touching it too much. I am wondering if because their sample initially had it set to, and actually, if you're interested, this is the sample I'm playing with. Their initial setup had this thing set to a replica count of 3, didn't it? Yeah. So they had it set to 3, but they missed the container port. Something's weird. I'm wondering if I need to trunk my data and try this again. Okay, so that's, oh, it's probably because Locust is still pounding on it. Yeah, so you're still pounding away on it. And that's not doing much, but I imagine if I look here, we're probably tapered off. Yeah, so we're still tapered off into it. Interesting. So it works, but the rate limiting inside of Orleans is problematic. This thing is loading, but and it's interesting to me that this thing is just like it's almost DOSing itself. And it's once again acting like the WebSockets thing is failing out. So there's something interesting going on here as well. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But it's interesting that when so I'm kind of wondering if it's related to the replica count. I know that sounds weird, but let's go here. Let's go here. Let's take a look at. I'm curious if this thing starts to work a little better going back down to 1 replica count. So the service inside of Kubernetes can load balance this guy. And I'm wondering if having 3 instances and load balancing them across is problematic. I also still have yet to see this dashboard. I don't know where this dashboard is. Should try to get to it. So it claims it's sitting on 8888. Which is a nice claim, but I don't think we've seen it load, and I'm not confident what would turn it on. Do they even... So aside from the README, is there any references to dashboard in here? Program. Oh, there is a... Well, what do we have here? There's... Okay. Almost like this is needed in order to get it to turn on the dashboard. Who would have thunk? I am confused as to why that is off. So let's see. This goes inside of this callback and uses the Orleans builder. It's like this example got refactored at some point, and let's see. Oh, so use dashboard no exist anymore. Did it just say it was unavailable to its protection level? Interesting. Okay. So something has gone awry. With NetSets, they improved a lot of reflection and other core functionality on huge server projects. I know the average load went down by 20% just for the upgrade. That's impressive. I did a stream a couple weeks ago on a lot of the Net 7 stuff. It was more focused on the features in C#. But at .NET Conf, the ASP.NET Core team was showing off some very similar metrics on different projects that they helped out with of what they saw, and it is insane. I am continually surprised when they show the graphs from like Net 5, Net 6, Net 7 of the performance improvements, because I saw similar graphs when it was like Net Core 2, Net Core 3.1, Net 5. Like each time it's like they're able to squeeze out all this extra performance. It's like, dear heavens, that is impressive. It is absolutely shocking to me that they are able to keep doing that. Though it seems like at a certain point they have to start hitting the diminishing returns, because I occasionally look at the pull requests that go in for some of like the C# improvements, and they're starting to get down to some micro level optimizations. Some of them make a big difference though, like in certain hot paths, like, you know, a few minor tweaks to like reflection or string concatenation go a long way when you're talking about serving up websites. Interesting. So this thing existed. This thing got redone, and the dashboard thing, we get close to native. Yeah, it at one point in time, C# used to get mocked for, you know, how you know slow it was, but that is the C# of the past in .NET Framework days. I mean, oftentimes there's always the complaint that because, oh, you're a garbage collected language and yada yada yada, but the fundamental benchmarks that they use for grading the different web servers, the ASP.NET Core team, I'm convinced, is on a quest to try to top as many of those charts as they can. And it's rather impressive. Now, admittedly, the code that they write for those benchmarks to get them to that point typically don't match like what you might do in a production site. Like there's a trade-off of performance for functionality, of how much do you want it to do. You can only do so much and go so fast. But it is absolutely impressive. Okay, so they have changed this doc quite a bit, at least from where it was set up. This explains why the README is different. Okay, so that at least explains why it's different. Okay, I wish I had noticed this nested file down here before. It's nice that they left the diff file in so you can compare and contrast. But the async thread tunes can catch up on multi-core systems. Yes, yes, and that's the thing is the garbage collection. Oftentimes, I think people think of it as the older garbage collection that would just freeze everything, clean up, and then run. But the new garbage collectors that are out there are much, much faster than that. I mean, oftentimes people would say that in C# you don't have performance problems, you have memory problems, and memory problems, because the garbage collector is usually the biggest bottleneck. And that's why so many of the performance improvements that they've done recently have been around effectively mitigating allocations. Because if you don't allocate memory, there's nothing for the garbage collector to clean up. And then you go really, really fast because you're not bothering to slow down and do little things like allocate some bytes. Okay. I think then where I am landing is in order to make this reasonably useful, I need to get this to the point where this stops happening. But I am noticing that the going back down to a single instance, there's something in the setup of this app. I'm willing to bet the old one did it with the 3 replicas, but the fact that going to 3 replicas, I start having connection issues, I'm willing to bet there is something going on where if it's not sticky sessions and one call hits server A and one call hits server B, that we're running into problems. Very surprised it increased the wait time the more that you hit it. Yeah, I'm willing to bet it's some sort of back off. Let's see. Framework is using array pools shared wherever possible. The programmers need to adapt as well to the new high performance syntaxes like span. Yes. Span, memory, even things like there's a lot of pooling stuff for like string builders as well. Effectively, when possible, really, C# developers need to start thinking in terms of when performance matters, review your allocations. Because it's very common to see people just, make calls that allocate tons of memory. It's like, please don't do that. Please don't do that. That's bad. That's bad. Okay, so this container port doesn't need to exist anymore because the Orleans dashboard isn't being registered, so that doesn't need to exist anymore. And I'm willing to bet that this load balancer is probably the problem, and something in Orleans is getting bit by it. It is nice to see, though, that it is holding up fairly nicely. Okay, we're gonna try something bad. I'm gonna apologize in advance if this does anything to the stream. But so far, OBS has given me the green light. So OBS still says green, so I'm gonna assume we're okay. But I am curious now because we saw it go from 50s to low 100s. And some of these spikes we could argue are potentially deployment times. I am curious what this does. Oh, number of users. Oh, that's cool. Got a nice little ramp chart for me. Here, I'm going to drag you over, make you big. Because I want to see the top end of these charts. Then we'll see if this actually does much. Because we went from, what is that? I don't know, 6-7% to 30-ish. Going from adding 50 users, and now I added 400. So theoretically, if this is linear, which I don't think it is, this should spike it enough to prompt the node pool to go. So yeah, so about that point, response times are increasing. The poor little server is angry with me. So Azure has yet to figure it out. Let's check and see. So this guy here should show a single instance. So this one little guy is serving up everything. Let's go with the pool and take a look. Nope, still just sitting at the 1. Is that benchmark reusing its session or acting as a unique client every time? That is a great question. I think it maintains separate sessions per user, if I understood the docs correctly. So in this case, there's probably 230 different sessions. But what we also saw just hitting this endpoint directly is, because for example, if I go straight here, Orleans has some sort of rate limiting built into it. And I would love to find where that is so I could turn it off and say, I don't care. And it's probably buried in this builder somewhere. Because all I've got is use Kubernetes hosting, grain storage. It could be buried under one of these things too. It's kind of hard to say. Oh, actually, we could look at the grains. Let's look. Because pole grain is what we're going for. This thing doesn't appear to have much. Persistent state. User agent grain. And that's the nice part here is this stuff. Almost like this. Ha 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 ha. I have found you. So what I heard is off, off, off. There. Yeah, so to be clear, this is a demo app and one that I did not write. This was from the Orleans team, and it was meant to show off well, one, it was supposed to be showing off their dashboard, and two, it was supposed to show off their Kubernetes deployment. But I found enough. It seems like this example has gone mildly stale in some areas and not been updated in others. So if I spend too much time on this, I may end up submitting a pull request updating the demo, going, let's bump some of this. But I also deviated from their directions when I was initially provisioning. I didn't provision my cluster like this. I did it my way. So I probably would update this a little differently. I think the big difference is this was trying to avoid preview features on AKS, and I don't mind using preview features. But let's go through. Let's build and push this guy up. Because, or actually, you know what we should do? We should test this thing locally and verify I don't see that same load balancer problem. Okay. Before I stop Locust and tell it to go somewhere else, let's see where it's at. I am remarkably impressed that with the load balancer, with that throttling in place. I mean, it's obvious the load times or the response times went up by a lot. I guess we haven't fully capped out yet. That function is so bad throwing exceptions to throttle. Yeah, speaking of things that are very expensive, that's another way to improve your performance. Don't throw exceptions if you don't have to. New exception is a very expensive call because it has to create a stack trace. Don't do that. Exceptions are for exceptional circumstances. The hint is in the name. Um, yeah, the most expensive way to cause more server load. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so I think what I can say is it's actually a nice function. The response time in milliseconds seems to roughly correlate to the number of user sessions I have open. About 100 users, about 100 millisecond median response time. About 500 users, about 500 median response time. Throw new operation successful exception. No. Yeah. I the problem is you joke, and I have seen libraries that do that, and it just oh twitch. I start twitching. Yeah. So currently without the throttling in place, the function between users and response time is basically 1-to-1 in terms of milliseconds. So that's cool. Okay, so we're gonna stop you for the moment. And then I would like to. There were build errors. What were the build errors? Because I can't type. Oh, I left some dead code there. Okay, so let's do this. So the user grain is the one that was throttling. Okay, that's fine. I will say, Orleans is one of those frameworks that I feel like I want to play with a lot more. Every time they show it off, they usually call out the stuff that is leveraging it, like Xbox. Like, okay, if they can handle that kind of load, it's probably okay. It'll probably handle it. Test option 1, add. You know what? Auto pull, create. There. It's almost like they built that specifically because they got annoyed typing out all of those form fields. Almost like that. Okay, so I want to do a refresh. And I want to do a new test. And I want to change my base address to here. And I'm going to do, we overloaded the throttling with just 10 users. So we're going to start swarming. And we're going to go to the pretty graph because the pretty graph is cool. Oh, it didn't. That's cool. It's got the old history. So these graphs are going to be a little bit different. Oh, that's nice. It actually separates out run 1 and run 2. Okay, so response times. But more importantly, I should be able to still hit this. And it may be slow, but it should load. Loading poll. Cool. And if I do this, you've already voted in that poll. Okay, so now I need to go back. But in theory, I've got that, and I should be able to pass. If I go back to my file here, let's do this. Oh, actually, we already have one. Let's turn this on like this, right? And I don't know if, I wonder if it, so, okay, great, fine. You're working. New test. I wonder if it will start. I'm curious as to if it'll reread the file or not. I'm guessing the answer is it won't reread the file unless you restart. Yeah, I don't see the other endpoint. Okay, so stop. Come back here. Uh, that's a good question. 1 second, and I will pull up Perfmon and we can find out. Ba-bum. Okay, you just have to promise to not make fun of my system. Okay, so we'll do that. So that's up, and now if we do new test, that starts swarming. Now we have both of those. Okay. My system always died before the server reached any load. Well, here in a minute, I'm going to push it to Kubernetes, and then we'll, because right now I'm pounding on it while it's debugging in Visual Studio, which that's only going to be mildly bad. So let's see, should be near the top. Let's put it this way: Visual Studio and OBS are both outrunning in terms of load. So yeah, where is it? There's the app itself. Okay, sort. Also look at the kernel time in the CPU graph. Okay. I am curious. Sort that this way. Okay, so it's going to show up as Python. So I almost want to just, what is the operation? There's a way to, trying to remember what the way is to do it, oh, you got to check it up here. That's right. To filter down to just that one process. OBS, Python, U. Okay. That's really all I care about is how much you're going, and then sorry, kernel time in the CPU graph. Service CPU. Where is my? Trying to remember how to get to it. Not sure if it's visible in this resource manager. Yeah, I don't recall. Though, at least from what this is mildly reporting, this Python process is not working my system at all. Which points awarded, Locust. That is going well. So if I load this, what's interesting to me is I sort of expected it to trigger more votes because I have some people hitting the /1 endpoint. And some not. And I kind of want to fix that endpoint to figure out why it's not going. Let's see, pull.razor, because it's basically that. So it's hitting. Poll ID voted. Oh, voted is already true. Oh, so it may. Yeah, that could be. It may be keeping the same one. So here's the simple way to do this. Like, we come down here and we just don't care if somebody's already voted. So we go, I don't care. And then the problem fixes itself. Oh, Odad Nerd. Good to see you again. Hopefully you had a good stream. We are performance testing a small ASP.NET Core app with that's running with Microsoft Orleans. And what's null? Sorry. .NET Core app running with Microsoft Orleans, deployed out on Kubernetes, and options.get return null. Really? So results came back with nothing? Huh. Okay. Because that vote ID or that vote doesn't exist. So we'll just null check it. There, that'll work. So Odette Nerd always signing off when I'm AFK. Yeah. Kubernetes and ASP.NET Core. Yeah. So, and I will say this is not my usual forte, but I've been inspired with Microsoft Orleans to play around with it. So for anybody interested, here's the little bit on here. And I will say I'm new to it, but I got very excited by looking at some demos of it, of distributed computing made easy. The made easy is to be determined, but I then had a quest to try to figure out, okay, if I can do this distributed computing stuff, how cheaply can I get away with it? Oh, look at this. Result options. Okay. Locus, you need to stop. You are making my life miserable. Stop it. So I went through, and so Orleans powers a lot of fairly big systems like Xbox. So they can handle quite a bit of load. And so I'm curious. So I know it's capable of handling an insane level of load, but I'm curious how much load it can handle on somebody working on a budget, basically. Let's say it that way. That's probably the better way of phrasing it. So I'm testing this locally for the moment, but here in a moment, we're going to kick this thing up to my cluster that I will say is a tiny cluster. And then we'll see how it goes. Yeah, how much load can free tier handle? That's sort of what we're doing. Okay. So good news, my code now works. We found the obnoxious methods in their demo that were throttling it. And now we're going to see how this goes. So now it should be counting for what it's worth. And okay, good enough. Yep, good enough. Ship. Okay, you stop. You go here. Docker build. What is your problem? Oh, ACR login server is not a defined variable. I don't feel like thinking too hard, so I'm just gonna go pull it up. Only obnoxious edge case. Sorry, I'm not used to this many chatters. Welcome everyone. It's great. It is great. Let's go, and we're